Parents who left me now have another baby and want to make amends. After ditching me for 16 years, Hank and Lisa now want me to reconcile because they've are expecting a baby. I told them they were the worst parents ever. Hey there, this is my first time posting. I was born when my folks were really young. My mom was 16 and my dad was 17. Both families thought it be best if my maternal grandparents raised me while my biological parents got to live their lives. But it aimed auntie, like I didn't know who my real parents were. This isn't one of those movie situations where the mom pretends her daughter VJTM's kid is hers. I always knew who my real parents were. Hank took off when he was 18, but Lisa stayed at my grandparents' house until she was 23 and I was about 7. That doesn't mean we were close, though. She treated me more like a pesky little brother than a son. She never wanted to spend time with me, never came to my school events, didn't care about my schoolwork, or took me out to do anything fun. Anytime I talked about my day, Chev JTMD roll her eyes or change the subject to shut me up. When she moved out, I hardly saw her. She just came to family gatherings, said an awkward VJNGV and didn't VJTM even look at me. It hurt, even though by that time I already saw my grandparents as more like my real parents than her. Hank was still living away. They were in VDJTMT together at this point, but have DJTM'd come once or twice a year to visit his family around the holidays, and always made a point to visit me and do something fun like going to the movies or my favorite restaurant. But to me he was more like a stranger than a dad, because when I compared him to my friends VDJTM dads, who picked them up from school every day, went to their games and played with them on weekends, I didn't get why this man who I saw maybe twice a year was supposed to be the same. So, fast forward to a year ago, Hank moved back to the same town where we live. He tried to hang out with me more, but I wasn't really interested. Sometimes I went along, but VJTM's not like I hated him, I just didn't know him. I even had a bedroom in his apartment, which was kinda cool since he lived in the center of the city. Behind everyone TM's back, both my parents started hanging out, and a couple of months later they announced they were dating. It was a shock. They asked me to move in with them to Hank's apartment, which I refused. They argued we could finally be a family. I was about to start a fight with them when my grandma said changing school districts would be very inconvenient, and IVJTMD lose all my friends. That shut down the conversation for a bit. But they didn't let go of the idea. Hank and Lisa kept pushing for me to spend more time with them. This was especially frustrating because even though I never had any major issues with Hank, I definitely did with Lisa. I don't like being around her. Chev DJTM's treated me like crap my whole life. And now Chev DJTM's trying to act all nice because she knows Hank wants me there. Last week, they both came to my grandparents' VJTM house. They announced they were going to buy a house nearby so I could finally move in with them. I immediately said no. When they said changing schools would no longer be an issue, I felt cornered. I told them that was never the problem. I just didn't see them as my parents and didn't want to live with them. That VJTM's when they dropped the bomb on us. Not only did they want me to move in so we could be a family, but Lisa was pregnant so we were going to be a bigger family. I was stunned and blew my lid on them. I told them they were the worst parents ever, that they abandoned me for 16 years, and now they've bringing another kid into the world to mess up their life too. They never apologized for treating me like trash and a mistake, making me feel like I wasn't supposed to exist, and dumping me on my grandparents. Now that they feel like they care, they want to be my family. Lisa screamed back, calling me a brat and saying she wasn't going to make the same mistakes twice while raising her second baby. I told her she never raised me to begin with. Hank said they were young and trying to do their best. Well, guess what? Their best was pretty damn bad. I stormed out and went to my grandparents' VJTM house crying. IVDJ team, We've been really depressed this past week. The Vijim have both called and texted since, but IVJ Temvi ignored them. My grandparents agree that I shouldn't attempt move, and that my parents shouldn't expect me to be all loving and forgiving after how they've treated me. But they think Hank and Lisa are starting a new chapter of their lives now that they've are more mature and stable, which leaves me behind. IVJ have also had time to think that IVDDGTMM the same age Lisa was when she had me, and what a huge responsibility that must have been. But I still can forgive them for the way they've treated me. Thanks to everyone for the verdict of the NTA. I feel better, and it has somewhat cleared my mind. Also, a huge thank you to all who are commenting about how awesome my grandparents are. I'm planning on showing them this post so they can see how much everyone appreciates the amazing kind of people they are. And they deserve all the love and appreciation I could possibly give them, and more. I've also come to the conclusion that I have a lot of resentment and unanswered questions, as well as misgivings about the future, that I need to set straight with Hank. He needs to know how I grew up and why he left me behind. I also feel like I need to warn him about Lisa because I am worried about my sibling being abandoned and mistreated like I was. So I'm preparing a list of points and questions that I want to bring up to him, and we'll meet tomorrow or the day after, and I'll confront him with all of these to hopefully get some sort of closure or resolution. Not relevant comments. OP responds to a comment calling out his father. I'm starting to feel like there are a lot of things that I don't know about the time when I was born and why I was effectively abandoned because my other set of grandparents, paternal, don't live far away, and I see them occasionally, but it's always more uncomfortable with them. They have other children and grandchildren, whereas my mother is an only child. So when I visit them, I feel like the odd one out because I'm usually alone in a big family environment. But about why Hank didn't reach out to me, I don't know. And I want to confront him about that. As far as I'm aware, when he was away, he didn't keep much contact with Lisa either. This is just since he came back. That's why I feel like I need to talk with him and set things straight because I feel so lost. Hank talked about getting us into family therapy a while ago, but I thought it was a stupid idea. Perhaps I should look into it for just myself. Perhaps with my grandparents, too. I want to share this post with my grandparents because honestly, the most common response has been how great they are. I love them so much, and I tell them all the time. But I feel like it's never enough. It's always great to take the time to tell the people you are most grateful to how much you appreciate them and how much of an impact they have had in your life. Hi everyone. Thank you all for the responses. It really helped a lot. It's been an emotional couple of days, and a lot has happened. My mind is a little bit scattered, but I felt like I owed you all an update, and I'm trying to be as clear as possible. For those of you who didn't read my original post, the gist of it is basically that my parents had me when they were very young, 16 and 17 years old, but they got separated and left me to be raised by my maternal grandparents. Lisa was around but couldn't care less about me, but Hank went away, and we had very sporadic but positive contact. Now he's come back. They're back together. They're having a new baby, and they want me back into their lives. I refused and told them they're horrible and shouldn't have kids, which brings us to the original post. First of all, I shared my post with my grandparents, and they were so surprised by it. They were very happy to see how many people commented about how amazing they are, and I, in turn, also took the opportunity to tell them how much I love them, and how much I appreciated everything they had ever done for me. They are my real parents, and nothing is ever going to change that. There were some tears, and they told me they loved me and how proud they were of me. They never thought of themselves as doing something special or worth so much appreciation. They were just taking care of family. I asked what happened when I was born, and he told me that when Lisa got pregnant, all options were laid on the table: abortion, adoption, marriage, grandparents taking care of me, only one of my parents taking me in. Lisa was deadly scared of adoption because some religious group had told her some horror story about dead babies and mothers being killers or something like that. She wanted to give me up for adoption, but Hank refused. He couldn't bear the idea of having his child lie somewhere and never seeing him again. So he proposed to take me in as the sole caretaker and leave his college plans to stay in our city. But his parents weren't thrilled with this plan and pushed him to go to college so that he could provide economically for me. They offered to take care of me, but they were significantly older than my maternal grandparents. She was the only child, and at the time they were just 40, whereas Hank has 5 older siblings, and his parents were already in their 60s. Since taking care of me meant taking care of Lisa for a while as well, my maternal grandparents decided it was the best decision for them to take me. Also, immediately after I was born, Lisa had postnatal depression, and the doctors advised them not to completely remove me from her side, or more damage to our relationship could be done. My grandparents wanted her to eventually love me as a son. One thing to note about Hank that I didn't mention in my original post is that even when he was in college, he worked part-time to pay child support. Once he started working in a law firm, he started sending more money to my grandparents and set up a college fund for me, which was news to me. My grandparents don't know about this, but Lisa does, so I don't know what to do with this information. Hank thought of me all the time he spent away and believed he had left me with a happy family and that he was working to give me a better life. But I followed his life through social media. He went to parties, vacations, had girlfriends, and did lots of fun stuff and barely had any contact with me. I asked him why he couldn't have made more of an effort to be a part of my life. I understand if he needed to study in another city and work there, but it's no effort to call or text. Coming once a year just doesn't cut it. He looked ashamed and apologized to me, and I took the advice that I saw in a lot of the comments here that I would forgive but not forget. Maybe we can build a relationship going forward, but it will always be marked by his actions in the past. If he hasn't been my dad for 16 years, he can't start now. He seemed sad but accepted my conditions. I then told him about my concerns about Lisa. I told him how badly she treated me as a child, that I did not think she would be a good mother for my sibling, and that I wanted to cut contact with her. He said that after he left for college and they broke up, he would call her once in a while to check up on things, but that quickly ended. When he came back, she explained to him that she and I had a great bond, and even though we didn't see each other daily, it was because I was in those teenage years, and she loved spending time with me and had been a very hands-on mom. I told him that all she said was a lie and that she never cared for me. He obviously read the stuff from my post, but I also told him other things like when she would ask my grandparents for babysitting money for taking care of me, or that she would call me annoying or disgusting to my face when we still lived together, and that severely messed me up. He was very serious and said he would talk to her, but that he really would not allow a child to be treated like that, and that he was sorry for letting that happen to me. Lastly, he told me I would have a bedroom in his house, but he understood perfectly well that I would never live there. He was quite emotional at this point and got choked up when he asked me if, even if I didn't consider him my father, I would consider his baby my sibling. I said, of course, that I planned to be a very active part of their lives if I could. He started crying and asked if he could hug me, and this time I agreed. I am happy about the steps we're taking to move forward, resolution of our conversation, and I really do believe Hank will be a good parent for my sibling. Once again, thanks to everyone who commented and took an interest in my story. I don't know if I'll update again. On the grandparents who raised me, it was tough for them, and I assure you at every possible turn, they have taken my side, scolded Lisa for her treatment towards me, and taken measures about it, even forcing her to go to therapy. They made it really clear to me that I was like a son to them and they wouldn't choose their daughter over me, especially after seeing how she treated me. But it's hard for them because they love her. We haven't heard from Lisa since I talked to Hank. My grandparents are a little worried. Keep in mind she is also their daughter and all bridges cannot be burned. If she does something crazy, I'll update. A lot of you warned me about the shit hitting the fan when my biological mother talked with Hank, and today, that's exactly what happened. Hank sent me a text early in the morning warning me that he was going to confront Lisa and that he didn't want anything to splash on me. He reassured me that he believed me completely, and I braced myself because I expected her to call me, berating me or something. I truly don't care about what she thinks, but these past few days have been emotionally draining, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for another full-blown confrontation. Using Reddit to vent has been helpful, though. After a few hours, Lisa pulled into our house and let herself in, screaming like mad and calling me every name in the book, saying I had ruined her relationship and asking me why I had been blabbing about private matters that don't concern anybody. I said that my childhood matters to me and Hank, who is also going to be the future father of her child, and that her actions ruined their relationship. She called me an arsehole and said I was the biggest effing mistake she's ever made in her life. I didn't know she could still hurt me, but that was a low blow, and I said that I would do anything in my power to take her baby away from her because she was a monster of a mother. We were screaming at this point, and my grandparents, who were in the backyard, must have heard us. They entered the room, separated us, and heard part of the fight. I was fighting tears, and my grandma walked me upstairs to my room as my grandpa screamed at Lisa, asking how she dared speak to me that way. My grandma soothed me a little, and then went to confront Lisa with my grandpa. I heard from the door how they ripped Lisa a new one. They confronted her for telling me the things she did, for treating me like garbage all my life, and for lying to Hank. They told her how disappointed they were in her for always treating me with disgust, and how many excuses they made for her, thinking she was a child trying to raise a child. But she is now an adult, and her behavior continued the same, and they said they were on the path of disinheriting her. My mother was screaming about how hard it had been for her, and how much she hurt. But my grandparents were having none of that. They raised me, and she was allowed to have the life she wanted and to make all the decisions she wanted without repercussions ever. I even heard them say that if any custody battle ensued over the baby to come, they would take Hank's side unless she radically changed everything about her behavior. They went outside for a while, so I don't know what they said, but eventually they came into my room. My grandparents looked extremely serious, and Lisa was red and crying and apologized to me through gritted teeth. I didn't respond, but my grandparents said on her behalf that she was going to start therapy immediately and that she was no longer welcome in the house. I called Hank after the debacle, and he was furious. He talked to Lisa before going to a work meeting or something, and he confronted her about everything. Apparently it was nasty, but he was willing to work on the relationship for the good of the baby on the condition that Lisa would also be working on improving her relationship with me, so that whenever I visited them I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. After he left, he made her promise she wouldn't contact me until they talked again. But there's my mother for you guys. I asked him to think about what's best for himself and the baby, and not hold today against Lisa if he didn't want to. Also, a thing that has come up a lot in the comments of my previous posts is that my parents only want me as a babysitter, and that I should steer away from them and my baby sibling for my own sake. But I want to make a point about that. I can't say anything about their intentions. I know nothing about that, but I am really very excited to have a sibling. Growing up, I had a very small family. It was just my grandparents and me. On my paternal side, I had a huge family with aunts, uncles, and cousins, but whenever I went there, I always felt like the odd one out. They tried to include me and invited me for Easter, Christmas, BBQs and stuff, but I didn't really know them. Although they were nice, I always felt like I had a big sign on my head that said, "That kid John had in high school." I can't wait to have a sibling, to love them, to always be there for them, and to show them what a family is. I want to be that person they can always rely on, and I want to feel that bond with someone. So even if I have my misgivings about my parents, and I do, I want to be a big brother. I hope this is the last update and there is no more family drama in the future. Thank you all for all your help. Having this site to air out my frustrations and having a community to back me up and give me feedback has been amazing, and you truly have helped me out a lot to deal with all of this. So really, thank you so much. Hi everyone. I posted a few months ago about my situation, and I just saw someone put my story on TikTok, so I checked back on this account and saw that I still had some notifications asking for an update, so here it is. Well, first of all, my grandparents are as cool as ever. I have not moved, nor do I intend to, and we spent Christmas together. It was all great. My father and I have bonded more, and we are in a better place. He is paying for my therapy, and we've done a couple of sessions together, and we're in a much better place. He feels sorry for having lost my childhood years, but understands that I cannot get them back. Instead of pushing a relationship with me, he's letting me have my space to build as much of a relationship as I want with him, which takes the pressure off of me. We've kind of bonded over my little sister. We found out she's going to be a girl, and I helped him paint the nursery and build the furniture, which I enjoyed a lot. He and Lisa are in a bit of a weird situation. They live together, but they're not together. My father is extremely angry about everything that she did and said to me when I was little and what I related in my previous post, and he is wary about what kind of person she really is going to be with my baby sister. They are going to couples therapy and individual therapy. Although I see her in passing because I go sometimes to my father's house, she is just barely polite with me, and I can tell she feels like I'm the one who screwed up her opportunity to play house with her second baby. I try to pay her no mind, but the only thing that worries me is if she eventually is going to poison my little sister's mind against me or subject her to similar mistreatment like she did to me because she is... The tension between us is palpable, and it VDJTM's clear she resents me. I worry about how this is going to affect my little sister once Chev JTM's born. I don't VJTM want her growing up in a household filled with animosity. We've been doing my best to stay out of Lisa DJTM's way, but at TVDJTM's hard when Chev DJTM's always looking for a fight. One day she snapped at me over something trivial, accusing me of trying to take Hank away from her. I told her that Hank was never hers to begin with and that Chev JTM's only making things worse with her attitude. Lisa JTM's response was to scream that I was a mistake and that she wished I had never been born. Those words cut deep, but IVJTMV learned to shrug off her venom. I told her that she needs to get her act together for the sake of her new baby because if she treats my sister the way she treated me, IVJTML make sure she doesn't VJTMT get the chance to ruin another child VJTM's life. She looked furious but had no comeback, and I walked away, leaving her fuming. My grandparents have been incredibly supportive through all of this. They VJTMV reassured me that IVJTM doing the right thing by standing up for myself and my future sibling. They have also made it clear that they VJTMT tolerate Lisa JTM's behavior and have threatened to disinherit her if she doesn't JTMT change. ETVJTM's a drastic step, but they VJTM are serious about protecting me and the new baby. IVD/MEV also been thinking a lot about my future. With Hank VJTM's help, IVDJTMM planning to go to college and make something of myself. ITVJJTM is something I never really considered before, but now I feel like I have a chance to build a life that VDJTM's different from the one Lisa and Hank had. I want to be someone my sister can look up to, someone who can show her what a real family is supposed to be like. In the meantime, IVDJTMDM focusing on the positives. IVDJTMV started a part-time job which is giving me some independence and a sense of accomplishment. IVDJTM, I've also been spending more time with my friends, trying to enjoy my teenage years despite all the family drama. VJTM is not easy, but IVDJTMDM determined to make the best of it. As for Hank and Lisa, IVDTMM keeping my distance from their mess as much as possible. Hank seems to be handling it well, but I can see the stress taking its toll on him. IVDJTMV told him that he needs to think about what VDJTM's best for the baby and himself, even if that means making some tough decisions about Lisa. He nodded, looking tired but resigned. So that VJTM's where things stand right now. ATGTM's a complicated situation, but I feel like IVJTMTM finally finding my footing. Thanks again to everyone who VDJTMs supported me and given advice. ITVDJTMs made a world of difference. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster of emotions. Hank and I continued to build our relationship, and it felt good to finally have a connection with my father. But Lisa made sure to remind me that she was NVJTM happy about it. Every time I visited, she had something snarky to say. One evening, as I was helping Hank with dinner, Lisa stormed into the kitchen. "Are you planning to live here now, Mike?" she sneered, crossing her arms. "You VDDTM are always around." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. IVDJTM am just spending time with Hank, Lisa. IVJTM am not here to cause trouble. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. You VDJTM are always causing trouble. Can DJTM, you see you've JTMR in the way? Hank looked up from the stove, frowning. Lisa, that VJTM's enough. Mike has every right to be here. Lisa glared at him. Oh, so now you VJTMR taking his side? What about me, Hank? What about our family? Our family includes Mike, Hank said firmly. You need to start accepting that. Lisa huffed and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving us in an awkward silence. Hank sighed and shook his head. IVDJTM, sorry about that, Mike. Chev DJJTM's just stressed. Yeah, I get it, I said, though I was tired of her constant hostility. Despite Lisa of JTM's attitude, I tried to stay focused on the positives. I spent more time with my grandparents, who were a constant source of support. They kept encouraging me to pursue my dreams and not let Lisa of DETM's negativity bring me down. One day my grandma sat me down for a talk. Mike, you've JTM, you've come a long way. Don VJ, let Lisa of JTM's behavior get to you. UVJTM are stronger than that. I know, Grandma, I said, nodding. IVDJTM am trying. UVJTM are doing great, she said, smiling. And remember, UVJTM5 got a bright future ahead of you. Focus on that. Her words stuck with me, and I started to feel more determined than ever. I threw myself into my part-time job and began looking into college options. Hank offered to help with applications and even suggested some schools he thought would be a good fit. It was strange having him so involved in my life after all these years, but I appreciated his efforts. Meanwhile, Lisa of DJRTM's pregnancy progressed, and her mood swings became more intense. She was constantly snapping at everyone, and it felt like walking on eggshells whenever she was around. One evening, after another one of her outbursts, I decided IVDJTMD had enough. Lisa, we need to talk, I said, finding her in the living room. She looked up from her phone, scowling. What now, Mike? I know you VJTM are stressed, but this has to stop, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You VJTM are making it impossible for anyone to be around you. Maybe I don't VJTM want you around, she shot back. Ever think of that? IVJTM am not here to take anything from you, I said, feeling my frustration rise. I just want to be part of the family. You've never been part of this family, she hissed. You've just a reminder of my mistakes. Her words stung, but I stood my ground. Maybe I am, but that doesn't change the fact that I've DJTM here now, and IVJTM not going anywhere. She threw her phone down and stood up, her face flushed with anger. You think you can just waltz in and everything will be fine? You have no idea what ITVDJTM's like to be me. And you have no idea what ITVDJTM's like to be me, I retorted. But here we are. We need to figure this out for the baby VJTM's sake. Lisa glared at me, but she didn't have a comeback. She turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. I sat down feeling a mix of anger and sadness. This was in VJTM how I wanted things to be, but I couldn't let her push me away. Later that night, Hank found me sitting on the porch, staring out into the dark. He sat down next to me, and we sat in silence for a while. I heard what happened, he said finally. IVDJTM, sorry you had to deal with that. VJTM's not your fault, I said, sighing. I just don't know what to do anymore. You've are doing everything right, Hank said, putting a hand on my shoulder. Just keep being yourself. Tim'll get through this. I nodded, appreciating his support. It wasn't easy, but I knew I had to keep trying. For my future, for my sister, and for myself. The next few weeks were tough. Lisa's attitude didn't improve, and the tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a knife. I tried to avoid her as much as possible, focusing on my job, my friends, and planning for college. Hank did his best to keep the peace, but it was clear he was struggling too. One evening, things came to a head when Lisa accused me of... Lisa, however, was as prickly as ever. Even in the hospital, she managed to make things difficult. She insisted that only immediate family could visit, which meant my grandparents weren't EMT allowed to see the baby until we got home. When I pointed out that they were her immediate family, she snapped at me, saying I didn't EMT understand anything. Back home, things didn't get any better. Lisa was constantly criticizing everything I did, from how I held the baby to how I talked to her. "You're going to drop her if you keep holding her like that," she barked one day as I was gently rocking my sister to sleep. "I know what I'm doing, Lisa," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "No, you don't, she snapped. "You think you've are so perfect, but you've just a screw-up." I bit my tongue, not wanting to escalate the situation. I focused on my sister, feeling her tiny breaths against my chest, and reminded myself why I was doing this. Hank, for his part, was doing everything he could to support me. He was there at every turn, ready to step in when Lisa got too much. He was more of a father now than he had ever been before, and for that, I was grateful. One night, after Lisa had gone to bed early, exhausted from the day, Hank and I sat on the porch. He handed me a beer, and we sat in silence for a while, just enjoying the quiet. "I'm proud of you, Mike," he said finally. "You handled all this better than I ever could have." "Thanks, Hank," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. "I'm just trying to do what is right for her." "You've Marie doing great," he said, clinking his bottle against mine, "and we've Malul get through this, together." As I sat there looking out at the darkened street, I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't going to be easy, but with Hank by my side, I knew we could face whatever came next. The following months were a whirlwind. Juggling school, work, and helping out with my baby sister was exhausting, but I kept pushing forward. Hank was a rock, always there to lend a hand or a word of encouragement. But Lisa continued to be a thorn in my side. Her nasty comments and passive-aggressive behavior were a constant source of stress. One day, as I was getting ready to leave for work, Lisa cornered me in the hallway. "Mike, can you watch the baby this evening?" she asked, her tone sharp. "We've got work," I replied, trying to keep my cool. "I can help when I get back." "Of course you can, help," she sneered. "You are always too busy for your own family." I took a deep breath. "Lisa, I'm doing my best. I'm working to save money for college and to help out here." She rolled her eyes. "You think you've DJPR so important, don't you? Always making excuses." "VJTMM's not an excuse," I said, feeling my frustration build. "IVGTMM trying to build a future." "For what? So you can leave us all behind?" she snapped. "You are just like your father, always running away." Her words hit hard, but I stood my ground. "IVJTM, not running away. IVDJTM, trying to make a better life for myself and my sister." "Don't make me laugh," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You've nothing but a burden." I didn't have a chance to respond before she stormed off, leaving me standing there, fists clenched. I knew arguing with her wouldn't solve anything, but it was hard not to let her get under my skin. That evening, when I got home from work, I found Hank in the living room looking worn out. "Rough day?" I asked, dropping my bag by the door. He nodded, rubbing his eyes. "Yeah, Lisa of JTM's been on a tear. Chef J. Tim's been picking fights all day. I sat down next to him, feeling the weight of the day settle on my shoulders. I don't know how much more of this I can take, Hank. He looked at me, his eyes filled with concern. We've been thinking the same thing. We need to find a way to make this work, for the baby VDDTM's sake. We talked long into the night, trying to come up with a plan to ease the tension in the house. Hank suggested that Lisa see a therapist, and I agreed that it might help. We knew it would be a tough conversation, but it was necessary. The next morning, we sat Lisa down in the kitchen. "Lisa, we need to talk," Hank started, his voice calm but firm. She looked at us suspiciously. "What now?" "We think it would be a good idea if you talked to someone," he said gently. "A therapist." Her eyes widened in anger. "You think IVDJTM crazy, is that it?" "No, that VDDJTM's not it," I said quickly. "We just think it might help with everything that VDJTM's been going on." She crossed her arms, glaring at us. "I dumped a TMT, need therapy. I need you two to stop ganging up on me." "We've DJJTM are not ganging up on you," Hank said, trying to soothe her. "We just want to help." "Help? You call this help?" she spat. "You two are the problem, not me." The conversation went in circles, with Lisa refusing to consider therapy and blaming us for everything wrong in her life. It was clear she was in VJ, Team EMT, ready to change, and it left us feeling defeated. As the weeks passed, I focused on my own goals. I applied to several colleges and got accepted into a good one not too far from home. Hank was supportive, helping me with the paperwork and getting everything in order. The day I left for college was bittersweet. My grandparents threw me a small party celebrating my next step in life. Lisa stayed in her room, sulking, refusing to join us. Hank hugged me tightly before I left, his eyes shining with pride. "You VJTM are going to do great, Mike. I VJTM so proud of you." "Thanks, Hank," I said, choking up. "I VJTM'll make you proud." As I drove away, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I was finally starting a new chapter, but I was leaving behind a family still mired in conflict. I promised myself I would come back often to visit my sister and keep an eye on things. College was everything I hoped it would be. I made new friends, found my passion in my studies, and felt like I was finally building a future. Hank kept in touch regularly, updating me on the situation at home. Lisa remained difficult, but my sister was growing up healthy and happy, thanks to Hank VDJTM's dedication. One weekend I went back home to visit. I was nervous about seeing Lisa, but I was determined to not let her ruin my visit. When I walked through the door, my sister ran to me, her tiny arms wrapping around my legs. "Mike, I missed you." "I missed you too, kiddo," I said, scooping her up and hugging her tight. Hank smiled at us, looking tired but happy. "Good to have you home, Mike." "IDOWRKHereLady's good to be home," I said, meaning it. Lisa avoided me for most of the visit, but it didn't bother me as much as it used to. I focused on the positive, spending time with my sister and catching up with Hank. As I drove back to college, I felt a sense of peace. Things were far from perfect, but I was making progress. I knew I couldn't JTM to change Lisa, but I could build a better future for myself and be there for my sister. Looking back, I realized how far IVJTM'd come. From feeling abandoned and unwanted to finding my strength and purpose. Life had thrown a lot at me, but I was determined to keep moving forward. And so my journey continues. With each step, IVJTM learning to navigate the challenges and cherish the victories. ITVDJTM is not always easy, but IVDJTM ready for whatever comes next. Thank you to everyone who has supported me along the way. Your encouragement has made all the difference.